our residents have a permanent home in the city of Boston so that they can thrive, so that they can put down roots, so that our seniors who have lived their whole lives can continue to live here, so that families can raise kids in the city of Boston. And it's really those people in every stage of life that something like the YMCA is designed to serve. And so for us, while we've been making lots of plans about the revitalization of the site, and you're going to hear from our partners in that, Wind Development today, all of our physical plans are all about that life that happens inside of it. And so for us, this is really a very, very important marker of bringing the YMCA as a real cornerstone of our plans for the revitalization of Mary Ellen McCormack. To the point about the people, I just want to acknowledge Carol Sullivan and the whole Mary Ellen McCormack task force. They have been relentless in their focus on the residents who they represent. Just every day of the week, every year, we've been winning in this partnership going back to 2017, and the tenant task force is the sort of cornerstone of that partnership. So thank you so much to them. Thank you to all the Boston Housing Authority staff who are standing around here. We've got an amazing team that works to maintain this site. We've got Isabel, our manager, Valeska, Josh, George, Lydia. This is a danger when I start listing everybody, but let me just say, it's an incredible team that keeps this place running. And we're so proud of the Mary Ellen McCormack development. We're proud of the fact that today it houses, more than 1,000 families, and that it's been doing that since the late 1930s. And for us, the question as we think about the second century of this site is, how do we do it in a way that really honors that opportunity for everybody to flourish here? And so, yes, as I said, that's about physical buildings, but it is also about the community that we nurture here and our partners in that. And you're going to hear a lot about one of those partners today, the YMCA, but I just want to acknowledge that maybe one of our most important people partners for the Mary Ellen McCormack development is standing to my left. It's Congressman Lynch. The congressman thinks of us when he wakes up in the morning and when he goes to bed at night, and we know that because he is always looking for opportunities to strengthen this site, to invest in it, to, as I said, sort of build it for that next century. And he's always thinking about the people. And we know, and it means a lot in particular because he grew up across the street, and the Old Colony kids and the Mary Ellen kids weren't always on the same page. So for him to not only have been just this constant warrior for us in the revitalization of Old Colony, but to also be so focused on Mary Ellen is he's an amazing force for good at this development. And for me, when I think about him as someone with that family history going back at Old Colony, and I think about Billy McGonagle, who this community center is going to be named for, my predecessor, my mentor, and a man who grew up here at this site back when it was still called Old Harbor. I just think that, not everybody who climbs up the ladders that we build in this country looks back behind them. And here in South Boston in public housing, we just have such a strong legacy of people who have. And so it's really my honor to introduce one of those men, Congressman Stephen Lynch.
Thank you, Kenzie, for those very generous remarks, and thank you for your good work, and to all of your team who on a daily basis really take care of the people that I worry about. Today, especially the families and the kids of Mary Ellen McCormack Housing Development. Good morning. Thank you again, Kenzie, for the kind introduction. And it's a pleasure for me today to be able to announce and celebrate the $850,000 in federal funding that will be used to build a new YMCA community center here today. So this was a hard-fought win. Nothing's easy in Congress, as you might have guessed. And I had two great partners in the United States Senate that made sure this money stayed in the Senate version of the bill. I know Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren, both Senate representatives. I'm not sure if they're here yet, but yes. But Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren, when you talk about relentless, they were relentless in making sure this money stayed in the Senate version, which was the harder part of the job to to accomplish. I also want to thank the BHAN CEO David Shapiro and his team at the YMCA. Thank you, David. They do a wonderful job in it. The credibility of the YMCA helped us get this funding because everybody in Congress knows what the YMCA does. They save families, they help people, and so it was that credibility of the YMCA that we borrowed in order to give this proposal the best chance of success. I want to thank all of my partners in government here today. Senator Nick Collins is here, who has been a champion. David Beal is here as well. And both of those men from the state level identified this as a major priority for them to make sure that in the course of priority funding that Mary Ellen McCormack was at the front of the line. And I know Councilor Ed Flynn is on his way. I understand that he and the mayor had a coffee hour this morning in the South End. So they'll be here in a couple of hours, I think, the way traffic is around here. But I want to thank all of my partners in government for their great work and making sure that there's a priority for our local funding, including Mayor Michelle Wu. I know she's at her coffee hour, and Governor Haley. So we've had ongoing conversations with both of them. They have been nothing short of energetic and enthusiastic in terms of supporting this project. Housing Secretary Ed Augustine for the state of Massachusetts has been absolutely wonderful. We had myself and Gilbert Wynn and the Secretary had a great conversation with Gilbert's staff about the importance of getting continued funding for this from the state level. So appreciate all those partners. And I did mention that Ed and Elizabeth made sure the funding stayed in the bill, and our local partners. So the heart of this community and the heart of this development is really the Mary Ellen McCormack Tenant Task Force. They are here every single day, and Kenzie used the term relentless in referring to Carol Sullivan and the task force. I think that is a very fitting adjective, as well as caring and invested and thoughtful and energetic. They do a wonderful job on behalf of all of the families, and sometimes it can be a thankless job to be on the tenant task force. You get all the complaints, and then you have the great honor of going out and fixing the problems that everybody brings to you. So like being in Congress. So it takes a strong joint approach to make things happen, and I'm grateful for the hard work of everyone here today. You know, the typical way that money comes out of the federal government is that we usually give it to the governors, or we allocate it to the legislature, and then there's a process there that no one really understands. It's rather convoluted, and you're never quite sure what the money is going to go to. In this case, however, we have a new process called earmarks. It's called community funding. So the request actually has to happen at the community level. So this was a request that came from the people who live here to their elected leaders, to the state representative and the senator, to the city councilor, to the mayor, to the governor, and then it came up to Washington, D.C. It's the opposite way that things usually happen. But it allows people to have a voice, and it really connects the desires and the needs of people in the community with what's going on in Washington, D.C. So, as I said, the federal funds goes right to where the community believes it is needed most. And this project is an example of just that. This new YMCA will help enrich the lives of neighborhood children and families. It'll create a safe space for residents and promote training and educational opportunities for them as well. It also is entirely fitting and reassuring that this new facility will be forever associated with our friend, Billy McGonagle, to honor his memory and the wonderful work he did throughout his life. So that gives me, and I know, I went to high school with his sister Mamie. I knew Billy growing up. You know, the only arguments we ever had were about how best to provide for the families in public housing. You know, we had one idea, I had another idea, but in the end, it all got done It was just a matter of us, compromising on some minor points, but Bill was great, and I always knew whenever we gave him federal money, if we gave him $1, we got $5 worth on behalf of the American taxpayer. So on behalf of families living in public housing, and I'm so happy that the McGonagle family, Mark McGonagle, still with the city of Boston, could have a part in this as well. They watched firsthand the incredible impact that Billy had on everyone in need of public housing, and that need certainly is more important today than ever. Funding community projects helps empower our cities and towns, and it gives neighborhoods like South Boston the ability to complete high-cost but badly needed projects that will help improve the health and safety of their residents. So I'm thankful for being here today. What a beautiful day. Today in Massachusetts, and especially here in the city of Boston, housing is at the highest level of need on behalf of families. There's nothing more basic and more essential to a family. As someone who grew up in public housing, if we didn't have the housing projects, at that time was the Old Colony projects, now it's the Ann Lynch homes at Old Colony, but we would have been homeless. My mom, my dad, my 5 sisters, there was a gang of us, and we were living in Dorchester, and we went on the list here. We went on the list for housing. I'm not sure how many families were on the list then, but today the BHA has over 42,000 families. That's the Boston Housing Authority has over 42,000 families on the waiting list. It can be years and years and years. We have over 180,000 families statewide that are on housing lists, all in the same situation my family was in, waiting, hoping on they call it housing insecure, but you're worried about being homeless. Some people living in their cars. It's a desperate situation. So knowing that this money, this federal money, and eventually this larger project will go to addressing that need is heartwarming to me, and I want to thank everyone who was part of this. And now, in terms of the human resource and the human element that is here in the housing development and improving the quality of life for those families so directly, I'd like to welcome the CEO of the YMCA of Greater Boston, my friend David Shapiro.
Well, it's quite an honor to be with you. Thank you so much, Congressman Lynch. It means the world to hear those reflections, know how personal this is for you, and also to know what a priority it is for you as well. My father always said, when you're the one accepting the check, you should speak the shortest. So I promise to do that. I will make sure to turn the podium over. But I stare at Billy McGonagle's name back there, and I think of 15 years ago when I was running an organization called Mass Mentoring Partnership, and he called and said, instead of waiting for parents to call for mentors for their children, what if the BHA worked with all the mentoring programs in the city to try to bring mentors to public housing and to mixed income housing and provide more mentoring in partnership with families and parents. And it was the spirit with which he did things and just was an advocate for so many, and especially youngest. The Y, is unbelievably honored. I mean, to say that we bring credibility to a project that has these kinds of partners and these kinds of folks behind it, that's just a humble privilege for us to know that we can bring anything to it. I would just say that what this does for us, what this does for the Y, is to make sure that this planning, that this design, that this process of a community center and a Y is as responsive and as in partnership with the nonprofits in this community who know their community better than any of us, with Carol and the task force and the residents, so that this Y, the beauty of the Y, I sort of call it a flexible spine or palaces for the people. The notion that we can be one thing, the Y stands for something, for thriving, as the congressman said, as accessible and affordable health and wellness for all ages, stability and connection and community, but that also our Ys can be individually responsive and representative of the communities that they're in. It's not an accident that we call the people that come to the Y members, whether they're 1 year old and learning to swim, or 100 years old and working on their balance, everyone's a member at the Y. Everyone has an equal stake in that. That's what community is. Community is refuting this notion that when one person gains, another person loses. We say everyone can gain, whether you just got here and we're your gateway, or whether you've been here for a long time and you're just trying to reinvent what you've already got to make life a little bit better. So it is just an absolute honor to have this vote of confidence and faith, to be able to do planning and design the right way, responsibly and rooted in the nonprofits and in the community. You thanked everybody, so I'm gonna sort of ditto and thank our local representative and Senator Collins, Representative Beal, Councilor Flynn, and I think we'll be rooting for BLA and BLS oppositely at the end of the week, but I still like you now. And Councilor Murphy, Kenzie, thank you so much. I have a distinct honor of introducing Gil Wynn from Wynn Development, and I would say, we've got a board member back in the back, Trevor Samios, who's also at Wynn, and from the beginning, when this project came to the Y, and when my colleagues who worked on it long before I did, the vision behind this project that connected communities, which is what you guys have started within your walls, that this could be a new town square, a hub for the community, a world-class asset that everyone here deserves. It just spoke to us that that's what needed to be created, and that you were the right people, along with the Boston Housing Authority and the nonprofits and the residents, to make that happen, to make this a truly world-class asset for the community that's game-changing and that draws all kinds of people to the Y and the community center to just find connection, find opportunity, find the same thing we're all looking for. But we can only do if we're provided with world-class spaces and people. So it's a great honor to introduce Gil Wynn, and I thank you all very much for the honor.
I don't know what your dad said about the person who's tangentially accepting the check as well, so I'll even speak shorter. But I want to say two things. One is that this property really has a godfather, and that godfather is Congressman Lynch. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. And Kenzie said it well. The congressman is always thinking about the Mary Ellen McCormack property, as well as all the surrounding areas in South Boston. This is the second federal funding earmark for that will benefit this project, and there's more coming. And we need every bit of it because, as we all know, real estate development and community development is getting more complex, more expensive, and harder. And the federal support that the congressman brings will be a chief reason that this succeeds. But it can't be done alone. It can't be done just with the private sector and the federal government. The state support has been excellent. We have two great representatives here today. The city support has been unbelievable. I would say there aren't many projects where the city speaks as one. This is one of them. And I just want to thank the city council for that as well. And I would just add something about the task force as well. So we are a developer who holds their properties for the long term. And so it really matters to us, not just how beautiful the buildings are, but how the community will thrive there. And as good as we can be at redeveloping properties and managing them, we know that we won't be successful unless there is a ladder up, unless there are social supports. The YMCA will deliver that. And I'm so excited to have the YMCA build a center here. Very fitting, of course, that it's the Billy McGonagle Center who started this entire ball rolling. But I'd also add that the tenants are going to have a seat at the table every step of the way to decide which programs come to this center. So this will not be, again, wind companies or the YMCA coming in and flying back out after making decisions. This will be every day for the next 100 years. The tenant task force will be there deciding what's best for their community in a shining new community center. I want to thank Kenzie Bach and the BHA for being our partner in this. And again, we're going to be involved in this property for many years. The BHA will always be involved in this property, and it's really important that we see eye to eye, and we have been. This is an easy one. This is one where everyone's going to benefit and everyone will be thankful. So in closing, I want to say thank you for the beautiful weather. You all did a very good job with this. And thank you for your support every step of the way. I'm really excited to see a shovel in the ground that will happen this year. So thank you. How can I forget? I want to introduce Carol Sullivan. Carol, if you can make your way up here. So Carol and I have known each other for 7 years, and she is the toughest lady that I know.
Yes, I am.
And she's a great friend of mine. And I will say that when we start with the shovels in the ground, she will not become the godfather of this community, but she will become the queen. So Carol Sullivan. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. This has been one long road, and we're here for another exciting event. Is that George Benner I see over there? Hey, George, how you doing? Good. Good guy, always a good guy. So this is a very exciting day for the tenants of Mary Ellen McCormack, for BHA, for Kenzie, and look at all my friends, the politicians, that I could actually say you're all my friends, and I'm so glad you're here. And Mr. Shapiro, it's a pleasure meeting you today. And what the YMCA is going to bring here for our tenants is outstanding. It's going to be state-of-the-art, something that we've never seen before, and I just don't know what to say except, Congressman Lynch, how many times have I been up here saying I'm in awe of all this front row people that I've got the honor of standing before? But thank you for everything you've done, and this wouldn't have happened without you and the rest of the politicians. That's all I can say. And we're very grateful and appreciative of everything, and same here, Mr. Shapiro. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce somebody, and where is she? I have the honor of introducing Billy McGonagle's wife, and my friend, Ellen McGonagle.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Ellen McGonagle, Billy's wife. Billy lived here 20 years of his life. I took him out of the project, and he went back to work for 41 and a half plus years. 92% of his life was affiliated with the BHA. This isn't the only place he did throughout the city. And I'm honored for this, but I'm fighting for more. I think he's entitled to. I mean, I was a single parent growing up because of his job. And I did a good job with my kids. But I just want to introduce myself and thank everybody. Thank you.
I'll just jump into the role of MC for a moment to welcome up our State Senator, Nick Collins.
Thank you, Congressman Lynch, Administrator Bach, the Wind Company, YMCA, Representative Beal, Councilor Flynn, Carol, and the task force. Councilor Flynn. The impact of a public official is measured by the condition they leave the community they're serving. We're grateful for Congressman Lynch, who has shown us the way. Something that's really important to note about this. In 2011, if I'm not mistaken the date, the federal government decided to retreat from their support institutionally for public housing. But the congressman would not have it. And today we're here to see the federal government reinvest in our public housing community. So I want to say thank you to Congressman Lynch for showing Congress the way. And to Ms. McGonagle and the McGonagle family, not just the efforts, and the administrator, I believe, was working for Bill when this discussion began. I remember our first meetings on the renovation and the revitalization of Old Harbor. But something that I would like to point out too about Bill McGonagle and the work that he did is on policy. along with the congressman, advocated to the Housing and Urban Development Agency to readjust how they viewed senior housing, to increase the amount of senior housing that was on sites while we were dealing with the challenges of cohabitation. So I want to thank him and his family for that. This event goes a long way to allowing us, Mrs. Shapiro had mentioned, and Gil Wynn, the state's support for this project, which typically is limited to state subsidized housing communities, which this is not. In the work of Representative Beal in the House and the support of my colleagues in the Senate, we've been able to continue to chip away at funding, understanding that this becomes more difficult by the day. So again, I want to thank everyone for their partnership, and the real reason why we're here is the community and the residents. So thank you for your patience and your continued support.
Okay, I'm now going to invite up Representative Beal.
Thank you, Kenzie, for that kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to be with you here today as we celebrate another milestone in the redevelopment of the Mary Ellen McCormack. As has been said, this has been a team effort from the city level, state level, and federal level. Happy to partner with my colleague, Senator Collins, to allocate $10 million in 2022 for a matching grant program with the city to invest. And that's how all of this is possible. We've heard from Carol and from tenants of the importance of public housing. My mother grew up in public housing. She wasn't Mary Ellen or Old Colony, so I think that's okay for the conversation here. She was down at D Street, West Broadway. But just the safety and security and the sense of community that these projects bring forward, it's an honor and privilege to be a part of it. I thank the Congressman for his leadership in making sure that we're continuing to leave this community in a better place than we found it. Just again, thank you all for taking the time today. Look forward to future landmarks in this redevelopment as we go forward. And with that, it's my distinct honor and privilege to bring up a champion for public housing, City Councilor Ed Flynn.
Thank you, Representative. Honored to be here with my colleagues in government as we fund this incredible YMCA program. I know the important role the YMCA plays in communities. I have one in my district. But Mr. Shapiro, the partnership with BHA, with the residents here and City of Boston, but really thanking and want to acknowledge the important role of Congressman Lynch, bringing us together, advocating for funding, ensuring that residents of public housing are treated with respect and dignity. And I think that's what you have done your whole career, Congressman, is bring people together and ensure that they had a voice in government. And there's no voice as important as residents of public housing. So I'm honored to be here with my fellow elected officials, the BHA administrator, former City Councilor Kenzie Block, and especially the Wynn family, the YMCA team, but also especially the residents here of this wonderful development. I'd like to recognize City Councilor Erin Murphy, Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, and thank you, Congressman Lynch. One thing I know about you is you advocate for issues and people who don't always have a voice. And when people often say the money isn't needed, or maybe they're not the strongest voting bloc, why do you care about them? And it's very important, and you're just a wonderful role model, so thank you. I know we were here over the summer when we gave the name to the community center, and now knowing it's official, it may have been then, but we have a partnership with the YMCA. Day in and day out, you're saving lives, and you're making a difference in not just young children, but intergenerational. And it will be all residents who will be able to benefit from the life-saving, resources and all of the programming that you're going to offer. The Wynn family, you're not trying to cut corners. And I know our time on the council, Kenzie, brought you here back to where you started. And I think it's true that you don't want to just put a house, a roof over someone's head. You want them to have dignity, respect, And when we're done here, people are going to want to live in the Mary Ellen McCormack. And when I was growing up, unfortunately, you were told to like lock your doors, don't go in, that's not safe. And that's not true now, but it's going to be even more a wonderful place. So we're going to have to help advocate to make more public housing replicate this. And always thank you to the McGonagle family. You were and still are an amazing mother. I know your son Mark is a wonderful mentor at City Hall and all of your children. So thank you for putting your name on something that I know your husband would be so proud of. So thank you for having me here, and thank you always, Congressman Lynch, for getting the funding needed, bringing it back to where you started. So thank you.
Thank you all for your kind words. I know the press has some other issues. Any questions, first of all, on the development or from the press? Okay, we can go to the next issue then. I think, any questions on Stuart?
Yes, can you just give me your comments on what that impact is on Massachusetts?
Sure. So this morning we received notice that Stewart Healthcare had filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 11, which allows them to remain as a debtor in possession. As an attorney who has handled, represented unions when companies have gone bankrupt, it's a slower process. I know that Stewart is required to file a plan of reorganization and recapitalization within 120 days. So that's the time frame right now. Unfortunately, in that situation, Stewart Healthcare doesn't own many of the assets. They sold the assets to Medical Properties Trust, so I'm not sure what they will have in terms of being able to, sell assets to raise money to pay off their debts. I'm not sure how that will go, but I do know that the secured creditors will be paid first. When there's a bankruptcy of this type, it's a slow process, and oftentimes the people who are most deserving and most needful, so the health benefits of employees, the pension benefits of employees, sometimes those are not addressed as quickly as some of the other debts that are owed by the bankrupt entity. So we'll have to wait and see how this proceeds. It might give us the ability, however, to force some consolidation and mergers between healthy hospitals and the hospitals currently held by Stewart Healthcare. So that's a possibility as well, but it's too early to say.
And so it's about 3 months for that timeline. And what would you tell people who are concerned about their jobs, concerned about their hospitals here in Massachusetts?
Well, under Chapter 11, again, Stewart would be a debtor in possession, so they would have the ability to continue to run the operation if they have the resources. And so I know the governor's very, very concerned about this, and Secretary Walsh has been intimately involved. We've had a number of meetings, but this is obviously a new development, and so we'll have to wait and see what the plan that Stewart has to get themselves out of bankruptcy. It's not an easy task, and they're, as I said before, it doesn't appear that they have many tangible assets to keep operating. I have 4 of the Stewart Healthcare hospitals in my district, so I'm especially concerned about Norwood Hospital, which is under construction, not quite finished yet. The Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton, Kearney Hospital in Dorchester, and they also had owned the Hebrew Rehab in Sinai Rehab in Stoughton in my district. So there are a lot of concerns, and also there are 5 other hospitals across the state that they own. So it's a huge number of beds within the state, and so that would affect all those communities as well.
With those 4 hospitals in your district, what's the urgency to get this all settled?
Well, it's a matter of life and death, right? We've got situations in Brockton where both Brockton Hospital and Good Samaritan Hospital have had infrastructure problems. And so those are not operating at full capacity. And so we've had to send patients to South Shore Hospital and to other hospitals for care. So having them not at full capacity puts pressure on the other hospitals. So that's a real danger. And obviously for patients and families whose loved ones are relying on critical care, it causes great anxiety and trepidation on the part of those families. They're not quite sure they'll be able to receive that life-sustaining care.
And does that 3-month timeline start today?
It's actually 120 days, so it's 4 months, right?
4 months.
I think my math, yeah.
Yeah. My math is bad.
That's okay. It begins the day of the filing, so it would be today, yeah. Today's the first business day since the filing, yeah.
So people should find out in 4 months, hopefully.
There'll be a plan in 4 months. However, negotiations will begin today. And I know the governor and Secretary Walsh, Kate Walsh, are working on that as we speak. Okay, thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for all being. Have a wonderful day.
How's it going?
Yeah, well, I think like maybe like right by right by that sign. It was.